Can I move to the debate on international renewal? It's my pleasure to call Robin Cook, MP, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, to introduce the debate and to move the NEC statements on former Yugoslavia and Kashmir and Jammu.
Gordon, friends, Conference has just heard the voice of a free, non-racist South Africa. Thabo, we salute what you've achieved, and we will be behind you in what you have yet to build in South Africa. Because Labour will always remember the courage of the ANC in their long struggle to overthrow apartheid. But we will also never forget the shameful role of a Conservative government in shoring it up. The chief apologist for the Tory failure to support sanctions in those years of apartheid is now their Foreign Secretary, Malcolm Rifkind, who told Parliament it is not simply a matter of good and evil. Thabo, you know, and this conference is proud, Labour never wavered in its belief that apartheid was evil. We supported those who struggled against apartheid because we are the party of solidarity. And our solidarity does not stop at home, but it is one we share with other peoples. In his speech on Tuesday, Tony Blair demonstrated how our domestic policies turn on a recognition that each individual needs a strong community. Our foreign policy will be based on the recognition that each nation also needs a healthy international community. We need a healthy international community to preserve the peace between nations. For 50 years, ever since the Labour government helped to form it, Britain has relied for its defence on an international alliance based on the collective principle that an attack on one is an attack on all. It is a principle that has given us a longer period of peace than Western Europe ever enjoyed in the age of confrontation between nation states. But there are now new challenges to our security. There is the immense nuclear arsenal of the former Soviet Union, now maintained by demoralized forces that cannot even pay the electricity bill. That is why agreement on disarmament of those nuclear weapons is now no less urgent than at the height of the Cold War. And the most immediate step towards ending the stalemate and disarmament would be a comprehensive test ban treaty. That is why I ask Conference to pass, and I ask Conference to pass unanimously, the emergency resolution condemning the French nuclear tests. Let us send a clear message to President Chirac. Call off your tests now. You have no right to ignore the united protests of every country of the South Pacific. And 6 years after the end of the Cold War, you have no need to test new nuclear weapons. President Chirac, believed that a program of nuclear tests would improve the prestige of France. Conference, it would do far more for the prestige of France if President Chirac were now to start supporting a comprehensive test ban treaty and stop undermining it. And the silence of the Conservative government on this issue shows why they are not fit to represent Britain abroad. Support for the nuclear test runs at 3% in the British opinion polls. That is even less than support for the Conservative Party. On this issue, it is not the Conservative government that speaks for Britain, but the Labour Party. Just as we speak for the common decency of the British public when we say that the export of landmines must be banned. For us, security is not just the national defense of our land and of our citizens, vital though that is. It is also the international defense of our values. And those values are now under attack in the war in the former Yugoslavia. For the first time since the defeat of fascism, European states are being carved out behind borders drawn up by ethnic cleansing. Friends, we want for Britain a society built on the principles of ethnic pluralism, religious tolerance, and resistance to discrimination. Therefore, we cannot watch those values being destroyed on the very borders of the European Union without weakening those values throughout Europe. That is why the NEC statement on Bosnia I present to conference insists that any peace settlement must retain Bosnia as a single state open to all ethnic groups. That is why Labour believes any surrender on the right of refugees to return to their homes would be to condone ethnic cleansing. And that is why Labour demands that those responsible for war crimes must be brought to justice. But Gordon, last week we witnessed a positive development. We witnessed another step on the path to peace in the Middle East. The Labour Party is proud that it is our sister party, the Israeli Labour Party, which has broken down the barriers created by years of hostility. And we salute also the courage of the PLO and the Arab governments that have been their partners in peace. But that progress in the Middle East throws into sharper relief the conflicts that remain unresolved. Today, I also present to conference the NEC statement on Kashmir. The international community has an obligation to express its concern over a dispute which has lasted for 50 years and cost the lives of thousands of civilians. Britain, in particular, has a responsibility because of our history. And that is why our statement pledges the Labour government to offer good offices, to end the violence, and to seek a solution acceptable to all parties and all the peoples of Kashmir. Those of you who came in by the front door this morning will know that it's not going to be easy to find a solution acceptable to all parties. But we must try. We must try because Britain has a special reason why it must make an active contribution to building an international community. We are a trading nation. Britain needs an ordered structure of international trade if we are to prosper. Yet under the Tories, we are losing out in trade. Since 1983, there has not been a single year in which Britain has had a surplus in manufactured trade. And in the new markets of the Far East, we are losing market share to Germany, to the US. In the new democracies of Central Europe, our exports are growing well below the rate of Germany. That is why, as Foreign Secretary, I will want to find out whether there are people in British industry with experience and success in exports who might make suitable ambassadors to some countries with strategic market opportunities. But responsible membership of that international community has obligations as well as rights. We also need a healthy international community to demand freedom for those peoples who have not the power to do so for themselves. And if we want to be on the side of freedom, we cannot arm the enemies of freedom. That is why the Labour government will not license the export of arms to any regime that will use them for internal oppression or external aggression. Now, if they had stuck to that principle, many Conservative ministers would not have found themselves in the dock before the Scott inquiry. The sale of arms to Iraq has provided a revealing example of how it corrupts Britain's values to deal in secret with dictators who do not share those values. Because ministers did not want the public to know they had armed Iraq, they corrupted the democratic process by lying to Parliament. Because they did not want their lies exposed, they corrupted the course of justice by concealing documents from the Matrix Churchill trial. I promise conference, Labour will demand the resignation of any minister who is shown to have armed Saddam Hussein in secret or to have deceived Parliament or the courts to cover it up. No such minister is fit to remain in public office. But when I preach freedom and democracy to other nations, I must practice it myself. That is why I will carry out the commitment Tony Blair gave conference on Tuesday to restore the right to trade union membership to the workers at GCHQ. I will restore it because no member of the Labour movement can accept the slander on which it is based. The Tory claim that you cannot be a member of a trade union and also be loyal to your country. On the contrary, I believe that if you're prepared to sell out on your workmates, you're more likely to sell out on your country. And I now turn to those people who have shortchanged their country. Gordon, over the past year, I have watched a curious process taking place. I have seen the Tory party trying to reinvent itself as the party of English nationalism. And I know why they're doing it. They hope to fight the next election on a nationalist ticket. We won't let them get away with it. No government this century has done more to divide our nation. It is a false patriotism that claims to speak for the whole nation when for 16 years they have acted only for the privileged and the wealthy within it. And we won't let them get away with it, because a party of Little England will be hopelessly out of touch in a global economy. We understand that, because Labour always has been the party of internationalism. That is why we know that in building a healthy international community, we also serve our national interests: peace and security, trade and development, freedom and human rights. And we know that our national interest should not be measured solely on the narrow calculus of economic gain or diplomatic influence. It is in our own self-interest as a nation that we should be confident of our identity, comfortable with our values, proud of our image in the world. I have not felt that for over a decade about Britain's place with the rest of the world. I want a foreign policy that gives Britain pride back in our place in the world. Pride, not because other nations fear our power, but pride because of their respect for Britain's contribution to keeping the peace, to promoting development, and to defending freedom. That pride is what Labour in government will give to Britain.